Yes, in these times, everybody is going through a tremendous amount of change, realization, awakening, desires for things new and different. And it is extremely valuable to the growth of the source, to the growth of universal wisdom, that you allow yourselves to explore for yourselves these new feelings that you are getting. Many, many people are beginning to get notions, ideas, desires that are sort of new, that are sort of, well, where did this come from? I never thought I wanted that before. But this is the time, you see, and has been the time in the past year especially, for you to explore things that are new ideas for you, new desires for you, and to not just cast them off as impossible or unrealistic or outlandish in any way, but to actually sit down with them when they pop into your head, sit down with them and explore them, and then explore them with whatever research you want to do around that idea, and to see how it feels in your body to contemplate following through, exploring, and perhaps even activating that idea, that desire, that tendency even. There are things that are going on with everybody where you find yourselves reacting to situations and people differently than you did a year ago, for instance. You find yourselves noticing things differently than you did a year ago. Part of that, of course, has been the fact that your lives have been very much upended with the need for staying home and staying safe and staying masked and all of those things. And a part of it is just the evolution of yourselves as human entities. And it is very important to allow that to be true and to grant it credence in your mind and in your heart. The most important thing is, if you have not been doing so on a regular basis thus far, to begin to listen to your body. Your body will always tell you what's going on. Your mind will rationalize. Your mind will tell you, well, that's not realistic. That's not a smart thing to do. That's not safe. But when you think a thought and everything in you starts to tingle, or you get a little rush of energy in your body, in generally the solar plexus and heart areas of your body, that is your signal that this is something very real to you, to the core of you, to the essence of you. And so we want to encourage you very, very strongly to follow through, even if it is something in you says you want to take a trip to the moon and you've got to find enough money to get on one of these shuttles that are now being developed that will take you into outer space. And everything in you says, well, forget it. I don't have $5 million to make such a trip. The point is to give credence to the desire, to give credence to the sensation in your gut that says, this is something I want to do. And then to begin to explore all the various ways you can be involved in something like that. As outlandish as it is, what you do is you begin to chant every day, show me how to make this dream come true. And you pray to the universe, you pray to your God, you pray in your ashram, you pray at your altars, you pray, show me how to make this dream come true. And you do this every day, and you do it honestly, and you do it with passion. And if you're not sure what the dream is, then the prayer is, show me what I want, that I have kept hidden from myself, that I am now ready to see. Because a question that comes up all the time in your minds, in your conversations, somebody suggests this, that, or the other thing, and your answer is, oh, I don't know what I want. How often have you heard yourself say that or think that? So you ask, what do I want? We give this to people all the time, to every single day, to sit down, to take a few very slow, very deep breaths in and very slow, very complete breaths out, a few times, 2 or 3 times, or 5 minutes of time. And then you ask the question, what do I want? And you use the oak door exercise that we have given, that you can find on the in the website and on the Facebook page. It's a simple little exercise that gives you a method of opening a door to see what's on the other side, that helps you to recognize a desire. Sometimes, especially, sometimes it seems completely ridiculous what you see on the other side of the door. Sometimes when you sit and you breathe and you say to the universe or to yourself or to your inner guidance, what do I want? And what will come up is an ice cream sundae or a banana split or something utterly ludicrous. You've got to pay attention. You've got to give credence to all of these things that pop up into conscious awareness in order that that voice within you gains confidence and can begin coming up with things that are more pertinent, perhaps, to your life. But you've got to start by giving credence to everything that comes up in response to the question, what do I want? Show me what's next in my life. Because that tells your inner self, your inner voice, I hear you and I honor you. And as you honor your own inner wisdom, the ability for inner wisdom to speak to you gets stronger, talks louder. And as you pay attention and as you follow through with these messages from your own inner voice, you start getting messages that actually develop you and help you to evolve yourselves. Does that make sense to you?
Well, I have a question, I guess, about that, which is that a lot of times there is a certain level of distraction, and also, in my case, a feeling of almost unworthiness. Like, who am I to do that? How do you deal with distractions?
Well, those are two very different things, distractions and the sense of unworthiness.
Okay.
Do you see them as the same thing?
Well, they're related for me. Sometimes I think I distract myself because I can't quite
Exactly.
focus.
Because
Yes.
you don't feel worthy to receive the wisdom,
Yes.
because you don't feel worthy to receive the gifts of the universe. In order to increase your sense of worthiness is to actually command it forth, is to say, grant me the gift of knowing my worth. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
You start that way because in this life that you have all chosen to lead, you have come here to learn to be responsible for your own life, for your evolution, and for your discoveries about your divine power. And we are here to show you ways in which you can take that path to find your divine power and begin to act on it. So you start by chanting mantra. I am willing to know my worth. I am willing to be powerful. I am willing to be loved the way I want to be loved. You start with I am willing. And if you are not willing, you start with I am willing to be willing. You have got to start where you are.
He says, how can I move through what appears self-destruction in my business ventures.
Darling, self-destruction doesn't exist only in your business ventures. You have known self-destruction almost your whole entire life because you, so as well as the Suzanne entity, have great, deep issues with self-worth. And so we give to you what we gave to her. You are worthy of success. You are worthy of approbation. You are worthy of praise and adoration. And you have got to begin to grant yourself permission to know that. So you start every day, 20 times a day, to say, I am willing to know my worth. I am willing to be loved. I am willing. I am willing. And for all of you, the other mantra we often suggest is, I forgive, I forgive, I forgive. You want to forgive everything and everybody because that frees you to live in joy. If we could convince you to sit down, to find small enclaves of people who are like-minded, to sit together, because when you sit together, the power of what you are thinking, the power of the vibration that you are emitting is multiplied, multifold. But if you don't have an enclave, if you don't have a group to sit with, then certainly at least by yourself, to sit at least 4 times a week for 5 or 10 minutes only, and send out consciously, purposefully, send out the how shall we, let's see, the green and pink and yellow light of the vibration of healing. Just send it out from you because you have it in you. It is part of your divinity to be able to send out healing vibrations. So you sit and you become still and you take your breaths that still everything in your body and you allow yourselves to send out these colored vibrations into the world, full of joy and peace and love and delight and cooperation and health and well-being. Those are the ideas that you hold in your consciousness as you send this out in order to touch. The more people who do this, the more people you will touch. And the more people you touch, the more change will begin to occur. It is very subtle. We understand that. You're not going to see massive change and have your corporate giants suddenly wake up to a what do you call it, a moral and ethical mindset. But gradually, the people they encounter, the people they listen to, will begin to have an impact on their own thinking so that these changes will come about. It's going to take a long time. There will continue to be fires and floods and devastation for the next several years. You, all of you here, will certainly go on living healthy, wondrous lives because you are conscious entities who are paying attention. And that is another reason why it is so vitally important that you honor your inner voice and heed what it tells you and make the effort to actually invoke it and evoke it so that you can be guided by your own divine wisdom, which lies within you and is always there to be accessed whenever and always. So be it. This business of social interaction is vital. And it has been, the lack of it has been the reason for so much violence, for so much devastation, for so much aimlessness among people who don't know what to do with themselves, when their schedules are disrupted and they are forced to be isolated alone, even in their families, but to not be able to go out on the golf course, for instance, to not be able to go to the workplace and have lunch with friends, has been probably the worst effect of this pandemic, has been the discombobulation and the violence that has come out of the people's inability to be social with each other. It is so vitally important. Who has a question?
Maybe a follow-up question was one that Tammy asked at the beginning, which is about ascension, about where we are in the process of ascension.
Well, you are all in different places, of course, depending on your practices and your consciousness and your physical state of being. As a planet, the planet is not going to transcend or ascend. The planet is always going to have human life on it, animal life on it, plant life on it, and there will always be third dimensional existence. Those of you who are seeking to understand what ascension is, it's not, most of you are not ready for it. As disappointing as that may be, you're doing things that get you ready. But ascension comes about when you know yourself as God, when you are wholly connected to all that is and are able to transcend third dimension and ascend out of physicality completely into spirit and energy existence. It's not something that most people consciously want. That's important to understand. There are people who want that, but here too, most of the people who say they want to ascend, that they are doing the practices necessary in order to ascend to higher dimensional existence, what is really going on with most of them is a vast, great disappointment with their lives as they are. And the first step is to grant yourself awareness that you are divine and that you are energy expressed in third dimension, and to find little things every single day that please you, that delight you, that make you enjoy the touch, the smell, all of the senses. Understand that most people who talk about wanting to ascend simply are not happy in their third dimensional existence. Those people who are marked for ascension do their practices, do their breath work, study with the masters, put themselves under the guidance of the great masters, the ones alive and the ones in energy existence at this time. So let us ask you, Tammy Entity, what is your perception and your desire about ascension in these days?
Yeah, I mean, I was the one that asked the question. I just keep hearing it thrown around all the time, and people are talking about it, and I want to know what it is.
What it is simply sort of dissolving the physicality and becoming energy, and sort of it's thought of as lifting off the planet into higher dimensions, which essentially, yes, it is that. But most people who are, as you say, throwing the word around and talking about ascension, they're just so fed up with life on earth that their perception, their understanding of what it is faulty. They don't really know what they're talking about, most of them. Some of them do. Most of them do not. Someone who ascends there are a few stories available to be discovered about people who have ascended, where one day they were there in the physical and the next day somebody comes to visit them and there is a pile of clothes on the bed and no person anywhere to be found, because they have disembodied and disembarked. It's very rare. It is very, very rare. Now, there are much more tendencies on the planet at this time to move into fourth dimension, which is a plane of existence that is both physical and non-physical. It is a very rare achievement to be done consciously, but the planet as an energetic force, once people begin to act more from their divinity than from their baser instincts, the planet will resume the process it has been in for the last 50, 75 years of actually moving itself into fourth dimension. That's a ways off, but it's a thing to strive for. It is like everything else. Now, there are rare entities for whom it happens in an instant, and they ascend, or they get the experience of the oneness of all things for at least a minute, and they know what is possible and what to strive for. But for most people, it's simply not in their ken. The master who sits in a cave and meditates 24/7 is closer to ascending than most people who live in the cities, in the countries, in the rural areas, most people who live life in third dimension, because that is the total focus of his being. Now, the master who sits in the cave and meditates 24/7, his focus is on connecting with the divine. That is the whole purpose of his being, is to connect with the divine. There are many, 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 many people who yearn to connect with the divine and do practices every day in order to have that experience. Your intention and your desire to connect with the divine within you. You are divine. We want you to know that. And from that divinity, all things are possible. All things. Want it. Seek it out. Bless yourselves every day. Blessed be I, and all that I am, so be it. Every day, grant yourselves the knowing that you are blessed, that you are loved, that you are considered wondrous and deserving to know your divinity. So be it. Bless you.